Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alec. This is my channel, Alec Reads, and I am very excited to continue reading this story. We are reading I Still Think You're Beautiful from Wattpad. We are reading chapters 3 and 4 today. Also, this is not my first channel, but my first one got taken down, so if you're from my last channel, welcome back. I don't know what happened, and no, I don't have the videos anymore, so this is me restarting. I hope you all find it okay. But anyway, if you have any recommendations for any kind of fanfiction or anything else, please leave it in the comments, whether it's books, fanfiction, which also, the fanfiction does not have to be Dreary related. It can be any kind of fanfiction, but this is just what was recommended in some past videos that I had written down that I made, and now I don't have them anymore, but I figured I'd still post them because why not? So it can be any kind of fanfiction or any kind of book, and I will find it and I will read it and I will post it. But yeah, let's get started. This is I Still Think You're Beautiful once again, and this is chapter 3. Chapter 3. Draco. When I woke up this morning, I thought the train ride would have been unbearable, or at least boring, but I never thought that I could have a civil conversation with Potter. I hadn't even realized it was him when I helped him with his trunk. I just saw him struggling and wanted to help. When he turned around, it was so hard to read his emotions. He had dark circles under his eyes and was quite pale. After we sat down, I was a bit bored, so I started to draw. I saw Potter laying down, but then he shifted, so I drew him looking out the window. When he asked to see it, I panicked. I didn't want him to get offended or anything. I tried to act like I didn't care, and that was that. He looked back out the window, and I carried on drawing. It turned out pretty good. "Do you want it?" I asked, though I secretly wanted to keep it. It was one of my best ones yet. "If you don't mind." He smiled and took it from my hands, admiring it. I hoped it was really good. You have a lot of talent. He stood up and carefully slipped it into his trunk. As he did so, his top pulled up, revealing the start of his stomach. I started to sweat. He sat down, his shirt falling back into place. He looked out of the window again, his eyes clouding over once more. "Are you sure you're okay?" "Just Peachy Malfoy." The contempt in his voice was almost amusing. Almost. "Okay, I was only asking," I said defensively, wondering how this turned bitter so quickly. "Look, I'm sorry, alright? I'm a bit on edge. So much has happened since, and now I'm going back. I haven't been in the right state of mind lately." He sighed. There was so much pain in his eyes. He really did look like he was about to cry. "What do you mean?" "Nothing. Never mind. It's nothing." He turned to face me and smiled. I know a fake smile when I see one. "I'm fine. Thanks for speaking at my mother's trial. She'd probably be in Azkaban if it wasn't for you." "Don't worry about it. It's the least I could do." He rested his head on the window and closed his eyes, smiling. I smiled back and started to read my book. We sat in silence for the rest of the train ride. When we pulled up to Hogwarts, Potter jerked awake. He'd been sleeping on his headrest, rested against the window. He looked around in confusion and realized where he was. I grabbed my trunk as he grabbed his. I said goodbye, but I don't think he heard me. As we stepped onto the platform, he went to greet his friends. Walking past, I overheard them saying they couldn't find his compartment and had gone to sit with Neville and Luna. I walked past confidently, pulling my trunk behind me, getting into one of the carriages and painfully remembering all of the deaths caused by Voldemort. Nearly everyone could see the thresholds. It was a bit of a surprise when Potter's little gang climbed into the carriage I was in. I nodded as they sat down, but that was it. Weasel was about to say something, and I heard Granger tell him to shut up. Smiling, I shifted in my seat to look at the castle that had been repaired over the summer. We pulled into the front gates and climbed out. Our luggage had already been taken to our rooms. I wondered where they would be. We walked into the great hall. Everyone staring at us. 8 years. 8th years. Didn't have to wear uniform. I had some black jeans and a plain green jersey. I'd stopped putting product in my hair after the war. I just didn't see the point anymore. I walked over to the Slytherin table and sat next to Pansy. She was wearing some jeans and a jumper as well. She smiled at me. As I sat down, Baisley sat next to her. Astra Greengrass was a few seats away. We were the only ones in Slytherin who had returned to finish our education. "You guys okay?" I asked my friends. They had forgiven me for joining Voldemort. They knew I didn't have a choice. My father was a ruthless man. It's just taking everyone else a lot longer to see that. "Yeah, we're actually great. We've got something to tell you." Pansy nearly fell off the bench. It was kind of obvious what she wanted to say. "You guys are going out?" "What? Ew, no. Really?" Those two were inseparable. "What then?" I asked impatiently. "Well, I've already told Baisley, but I'm gay." She went a bit red, so I reassured her with a smile. "That's great. Now I don't need to worry about you coming after me," I joked. "That was one time, okay? Anyway, it's Baisley's turn now." "Baisley?" Baisley was looking at the plates as if he couldn't wait any longer for the food to come. "Baisley," I said. He snapped out of his food trance and looked up. "What?" "Oh, yeah, it's not definite, but I want to be an Auror when I leave. What are your thoughts?" "That's great, as long as you like it. I guess, why would I care?" I shrugged. Baisley was about to retort when McGonagall finished the sorting ceremony and cleared her throat. She started to drone on about the dangers of the Forbidden Forest as I zoned out and looked over to the Gryffindor table. Potter was looking down at his plate, but not in the same way as Baisley was. I saw a single tear fall onto the table. My heart was breaking. "Hi." Head slowly looked up. I didn't look away. Our eyes locked. His green eyes glistened in the candlelight. I wanted to talk to him and ask him if he was okay. He'd probably just say he was fine again. He looked so broken. I gave him a weak smile as he winked his tears away, slowly smiling back at me and turning his gaze to McGonagall. Coming back to Hogwarts must be really hard for him. I looked at him once more before concentrating on McGonagall again. Why did I care so much about Potter? Chapter 4. Harry. Coming back was a mistake. I started crying during the speech. Merlin, why am I so weak? I looked up and saw Draco was looking at me. I smiled at him to show I was okay, but I wasn't. I turned my attention back to McGonagall. 8th years have their own common room. I will personally show them it after the feast. Enjoy. The food appeared on our plates. I just ignored it. I wasn't hungry. I felt everyone's gaze on me, and I hated it. I told Hermione I was just getting some air. She just nodded. I walked out of the great hall and outside onto a little courtyard. I leant against a tree and sunk to the floor and concentrated on my breathing. I couldn't cry. Not here. Not now. My stomach grumbled, but I just breathed. Why did I come back? This was a mistake. Harry? I heard a voice from behind me. Without getting up, I turned around. Malfoy. Great. Now I have to listen to his stupid bully. Are you okay? I sighed. No, I wasn't. But that didn't mean people had to ask me that every second. Malfoy, I'm fine. Okay? Just leave me alone. I brought my knees up to my chest and hugged them, trying to calm myself down. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. You don't seem okay. He stepped closer to me, obviously not knowing what to do. Just leave me alone. Why do you care anyway? It was an empty question, and I half expected him to say, I don't, but he didn't. I don't know. He just seemed to be happy. And you don't at the moment. And I'm trying to turn my life around, so I'll ask you again. Are you okay? He'd reached out. By this point, I stood up, our eyes locked once more. I looked down. He'd gotten taller than me. It was hard to see under his thick jumper, but he was a bit more toned than 6 year. I brushed past him and he grabbed my arm. I winced and glared at him, yanking my stringy arm from his grasp and holding it. He looked at me strangely again. Just leave me alone, Malfoy, I spat and walked off, zoning out from the world. As I walked back to the castle, I saw Hermione and Ron and the other 8th years. Perfect, right on time. I walked up to them and gave them a smile. You all right, mate? Ron asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Ron's eyebrows shot up. He gave me a strange look. You just look a bit pale. I rolled my eyes. You're starting to sound like Hermione. I'm fine, okay? Where's your common room anyway? Do we know? No. We're just waiting and following McGonagall. She said we each have separate rooms with one roommate instead of 4. I wonder who I'm with, Hermione said. I hope I'm not with any Slytherins. Definitely wouldn't want to share a room with Malfoy, Ron started. Hermione pushed him. Ron, you said you would be civil. Ron just held his hands up in defeat. Yeah, but I didn't say I would be nice, did I? McGonagall had come to a stop. She said the password. It was probably a Latin word for something. I'd have to ask Hermione about it later. We walked into a common room. It was a bit like Gryffindor's, but with more color than just red. There were 2 staircases. Boys on the left, girls on the right. Your names are on the door. And just because you're 8th years doesn't mean you can wander about the castle. She almost glared at me and Ron and Hermione. She turned around, muttering how it never stopped us before. She needn't have worried, as I wanted to see less of the castle as I possibly could. I'm gonna go find my room, Ron. You coming? Ron nodded, and we said we'd see Hermione later. We walked up the stairs and found that Ron was sharing with Senius and Dean. Ron didn't know about their relationship, and they had told me. I gave him a smile, hoping that the arrangement would work out. I looked at another door, and it said Neville and Belize would be sharing. Poor Neville. I walked to the last door. I don't know why I was surprised, really. I just sighed and walked into the room labeled Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. I unpacked my trunk quickly and began to change into some pajamas. As my luck would have it, when I was in nothing but my underwear, the door slowly opened. I quickly grabbed my trousers, trying to shove them on, causing me to fall on the bed. Draco stared at me as I carried on changing. It was starting to get kind of creepy. I quickly pulled my top over my arm. Even with the glamour spell on, I was still paranoid. "Do you mind?" I said as he averted his gaze and began to unpack as well. I wandered into the bathroom, getting my toothbrush out of my bag along with my toothpaste. My hand brushed past something, a small tin box. I thought about it and shook my head. Malfoy was right there. I brushed my teeth and left a small bag in there. I climbed into bed, not looking at Malfoy, pulling the thin covers over me. I closed my eyes, unwilling, letting my dreams pull me into deep sleep. I was standing in a hallway. I think it was Hogwarts. Yep, definitely Hogwarts. There was no one around, but I knew that this was the day of the battle. Broken stone and cobble everywhere, painting torn on the floor. I walked towards and pushed open the doors to the great hall. In there, where the 4 tables of each house laid on those tables were everyone I loved. Mum, Dad, Sirius, Remus, Tonks. I haven't had this dream before. Not with everyone, anyway. There were people who hadn't died, I knew this, but it didn't make it any less realistic. Hermione, Ron, all of the Weasleys were on the tables. Next to Fred, I started to scream. This was all my fault. They're all dead because of me. The tables were dripping with blood as I knelt on the floor. The pool of crimson liquid reached my knees, my trousers soaking it up like a sponge. They sat up and looked at me in disgust as I cried. They told me it was my fault they were dead because of me, and I believed them. It was true. "I'm sorry, this is all my fault, I'm sorry." But no matter how much I apologized, it wouldn't bring them back. In the dream, I looked up to see everyone gone. The only person in the room was my mother, and her wand pointed at me. The green light hit my chest. I woke up panting and sweating like every night. I leaped from my bed and raced to my trunk, looking for my photo album. I started hyperventilating and couldn't breathe. Where was it? Where is it? I couldn't find it. I couldn't breathe. Harry? Malfoy had woken up and ran over to me as I hugged my knees, trying not to pass out from lack of oxygen. And that is the end of chapter 4. I hope you enjoyed. I just want to say that once again, please subscribe if you like this channel. Good morning, night, or afternoon, and I love all of you. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between. Have a good day. Love you. Bye.